Good morning, pickers of the world. Today I am sitting here with a find that I had found a few years ago. I don't know, I'm kind of close there, ain't I? And this is uh, this is actually a print of Queen Victoria, and there's quite a little story that goes along with it. Um, if you don't familiar with Queen Victoria, she was a granddaughter to, I think, like King George the Third or something like that, right in that area. It's one of them guys. And she had several uncles. She um, she had like uh, 15 uncles and aunts, and before she was even born, there was already a competition struggle for who was going to be the heir to the throne down the road, because the only people that can be a king or a queen, they have to come from this bloodline. And you just don't, it's not like an elected official. You have to be in line to get that position. So even before she was born, there was a big, everybody was trying to get their little things in to become the king or the queen. And there'd always been kings. Generally the elder son, in most cases, would be the king. If the father had passed, the king had passed, it'd be the older son, or whoever he appointed because he felt as though they could do a good job. So how the story goes is her Queen Victoria's parents, when her father was one of the brothers from a family of 15, and there was this thing about who was going to have the successor to the throne, and the king passed away, and one of the older boys or older sons or whatever, or whoever they trusted or whatever, became the king. And he was pretty old. So one of the brothers, he realized he didn't have no stake in anything, so he moved away, and he realized that in order for him to have an heir to the throne, he needed to take a wife. But he wanted to take a wife with relatively good stature, and he needed a queen, is what he needed, or a princess. So he married this princess from Germany, in a small little kingdom in Germany at the time, way back in the 1700s or so, in that area. Right from the time of 17 to 1800s, he had married this woman, duchess or princess from Germany, and they moved around, and they had a fancy, of course, money. All these guys were in debt. Anyways, her father, Queen Victoria, married this German woman, and her name was Victorious or something like that. And when Queen Victoria was born, the only way they could get a name for her is they had to go to the king. And the king, many names were put in, but the king had to be the one to more or less, put his signature on the name. And I guess when royalty's involved, it's kind of a touchy thing about who they're going to name, or what they're going to name a child, or whatever. And she ended up, it was a big fuss, and it went on for Queen Victoria, which this is Princess Victoria, but the Queen Victoria, before she was even within, it was like 6 months before she really had a name, because there was a big argument on what they were going to call her. And finally she gets her name, and Victoria, and she was the first woman named Victoria in England, the very first woman ever named Victoria. There's a lot of information about it if you go on YouTube and you pump in young Victoria. There's quite a little thing that talks about that. It's about 40 minutes long. And there's a lot of information about Queen Victoria, actually. She's quite a woman. She actually, when she finally became queen at the age of 18 or 19, whatever it was, when the king passed away, she, one in every 5 person on the planet at the time was under her control. So she was like the most powerful woman in the world from the time she was like 19 years old until, of course, she, things have changed over time, but for many, 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 many years, she was the most powerful woman in the world. And this is a print from an original painting done around 1835-ish, in that area, when she was like 18 or 19. She hadn't quite been queen yet. This is just before her queenship, and was done what they call I can't think of the word. It's when they accept her. The king, the council and the king, they accept her as a legitimate heir. It's consummation, I guess it is, and somewhere along in that area, when she gets consummated, and this is when this painting was done. Now, this is a print. Now, not exactly sure when they started doing these type of prints, but this print here falls back in that era, around that time when, I don't know if you call this a lithograph or what you want to call it. I don't see little tiny small dots. It's really hard to tell you what it is. It's old. I don't really know. I know that the woman that I got it from she'd be like in her probably 80s now, but I bought it like when me and my wife first got together. We like to go out and do a lot of yard sales and buy things and stuff for the house or whatever. And I came upon this yard sale in New Hampshire, and I saw this painting, and I had to have it. I tried to dicker with the woman, and I don't know why. I just had a feeling, and I've always been kind of a sucker for women, art, beautiful women, or art with women or young girls in it or something. Just something about them. I don't know what it is. If it's done right and it really is good art, if it's good work, not into nakedness or all that, but if it's really good quality work, I've always been interested in it. I really like it. I kind of got a little fetish about certain things with women and Victorian dress and old style, and not so much the new stuff, but the older style stuff. And so she had $35 on it, and tried to beat her up on it a little bit. After the 20, she said, she goes, I want $35 for it. She says, that picture has been in my family for as long as I can remember. She said, when I was a little girl, my grandmother had this on the wall, and I was like 8 or 9 years old, she said, and I can remember it being very, very, very old then. So that kind of puts me in the area where, how old is it really? So, if Queen Victoria had this painting done in 1835, and whenever this whole lithograph thing or printing really was taken off, I would assume that this would be right around that area, between 1835 to 1845. Maybe a little newer, but not by much. This does have some condition issues. It has little boo-boos on the, let's show this side right here. A little boo-boo right there where the frame is separating, and some of the, I had some of this gold flake stuff. It's actually very thick, very, very thick, and this gold trim and stuff. But it's got some condition. The back of it is a. It looks like some kind of a paper. It's a paper, but it's got like you feel it, and it's almost like snake hide or lizard skin or something. It's really, really thin, and it's got a texture like that. Of course, it was put on there with some kind of a paste or something, and the wire on it is like a hand twisted wire, roughly from that era. And I mean, you could change that at any time, but I mean, for the most part, it looks and feels, and it's hand twisted. There is no maker mark on it. There's nothing on it other than it's a print. This girl went through quite a struggle. So, I mean, right up until she was 18 years old, after her father had passed away, her mother had kind of made an arrangement, or it was kind of like a boyfriend, girlfriend, maybe they even got married or something, to this duke who was very manipulative. He was very controlling, and he tried to control every aspect of Victoria's life, because when they figured out that she was going to be the power on the throne, they wanted to be very, very close. They even went as far as trying to make her sign documents relinquishing power to them until she turned of age. And she was smart enough to say, nope, I ain't doing it. And she may have had some influence by the king, I'm not sure. I'm sure the king had probably talked to her. And she made it to her 18th birthday, and shortly after that the king had passed, and then she became the queen. And she was the first ever, not only was she the first woman ever named Victoria in England, but she was in Europe, or England they call it, she was the first woman queen that held power like she did, with 1 in every 5 human being under her control in the world. So this was my find. I know it's very old. I can't put a price on it. I'm not really sure. It could be worth $50. It could be worth $5,000. I don't know. But that's my pick that I found, that I'm very kind of proud of, and it's the Green Mountain Minute with your host, the Green Mountain Pecker, and Queen Victoria. Have a nice day.